Hello and welcome to our last meetup of the year. Woo! Yay! Applause! Woo! So happy not to see us anymore. I understand. Well, as always, to begin, in the spirit of reconciliation, the Melbourne AWS user group acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. Our in-person meetup is being held on the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners of this land. We pay our respect to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Equally as important is the Code of Conduct. The full Code of Conduct can be read online. A short version is right in front of you, and the very short version is be nice to each other. So if you think people are not adhering to the Code of Conduct, reach out to any of us, either in person, on Slack, or anonymously through the form on that page. Obviously, we are present on the web. There's our website, melp.awsug.org.au, on LinkedIn, Mastodon, and YouTube, where if you're watching this live or recorded, I'm pretty sure you will have found this already. The agenda for tonight, we have our introductions, which is the boring part I'm doing now. Then we have an extended What's New section where Matt and Jason will tell you about some of the announcements, because I don't know if you've noticed, but AWS, well, the announcements there have come faster than CEOs at OpenAI. That then is followed by Jason again stepping up and telling us all about the forgotten tools, specifically Cloud Shell and Data Lifecycle Manager. Then you will see Matt again, who will be running our reInvent prediction game. This is your chance to win prizes. Obviously, we won't award the prizes today because we don't know what the right answers are to the questions until next week. But there will be prizes, they're nice prizes, and we'll hand them out at our January reInvent recap meetup. And just to keep things going, we'll end up with a marketplace for who's hiring. At the end of the year, it might not be a lot of people, but still. And then we'll close it off. And we'll all go home and have a nice night and prepare for next week's waterfall of announcements. During the talks or otherwise, you can always ask questions, either in the Melbourne channel on Slack or in YouTube in the live chat. If you are in person, obviously raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you so that somebody in the so that the online audience can also hear what you're asking. If you ask it in one of the other channels, by the way, we will repeat the questions for you. And unsurprisingly, I want to thank our sponsors. These sponsors have been with us for the entire year, so that's always great. And without them, we can't do these events or provide the food and drinks. So our gold sponsors, our gold sponsor, CMD Solutions. Our silver sponsors, Versant and Civo. And our venue sponsor, NAB, who provides this wonderful venue. Hence, venue sponsor. I've mentioned Slack a couple of times. If you're not on our Slack yet, there's a sign-up form right here on melb.awsug.org.au/Slack. We've got lots of interesting channels there where discussions can get quite interesting and fun. It includes all the usual stuff, like what announcements are going on, other outages. We've got a channel dedicated to console issues where we just make fun of the AWS console whenever it does silly things, which happens quite regularly. The other things, we love to get people involved, especially speakers. If you want to give a talk at the meetup, please reach out. We're happy to discuss this with you, or you can fill in the form on the website. But speakers is the one thing we are always looking for. We're working on our sponsorship for next year. We've been speaking to several companies, some of which you will have probably seen come by earlier in this slide. But if your company is interested, reach out and we can give you more details. And if you want to volunteer, if there are things you'd like to help the user group with, we are always looking for help. The night itself doesn't need much, but there's things in the background where we can always use help, especially if you happen to be good at graphic stuff. Would love to clean some of our website and such up. What else is coming up? Yeah, that's not a surprise. Next week is reInvent. That's why we're a week early. You can watch it online as well, so you can register if you're not going to Vegas. Is anyone here going to reInvent, or is everybody who goes to reInvent already there? I guess everybody's already there. Lucky them. So yeah, register, watch the keynotes on repeat because you don't want to get up at 3 a.m. or whatever time it is. I think it's around 3 a.m. usually. Other things that we're aware of already next year in March is Programmable. This is a fun conference as well. Often has a fair number of AWS talks. And if you want to give a talk there, the CFP is still open until the end of the month. So that's always a good thing. And I think part of the prizes tonight. Yep, part of the prizes for the game tonight includes tickets for Programmable as well. So, like I said, there's some good prizes there. And that brings us to what's new in AWS, because there are no meetups planned yet.
Everything is the answer to the question. We'll run through, there's probably, I think in this pack there's about 60 announcements, and that's 60 out of the 340 odd that have been in the last 30 days. So this is but a snippet of what's actually been going on.
Yeah, but there's some great things come to Melbourne. Control Tower and Code Pipeline, I think, like the really big ones coming to that are now in Melbourne.
Yeah, client VPN. Look, if you need it, great that it's there. The Lambda runtimes, you can now do what you can do in Sydney in Melbourne. Yay! And Control Tower, as you said. Yeah. If you wanted Control Tower, you've probably already got it running in Sydney, to be honest. As for announcements, finally in Sydney, nothing. Nobody cares about Sydney. Databases. The big one here is probably the top one. RDS Multi-AZ with 2 readable standbys now supports minor version updates in 1 second of downtime. So basically somebody thinking that request just did a weird thing and hits refresh and never notices that your website actually went down. That's a biggie.
That is a biggie.
If you're you're paying for it, multi-AZ with 2 readable standbys, you're at about 4 hosts. You're paying a pretty penny for 1 second of downtime, but you could probably ramp it up, do your upgrades, validate it, roll it back, and not, there's probably a couple of funky things you could do in there to keep the costs relatively low. But talking about low, if you have a super small thing that you want to test, like super small, you can now run your RDS SQL server on a T3 micro instance. I don't know why you would want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it will actually work.
On a Windows SQL server on a T3 micro.
But hey, if you want to do it, if you want a really, 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 really cheap RDS, that's probably about as cheap as you're going to get.
Yeah. The RDS blue-green deployments, supporting Aurora, RDS, PostgreSQL. So, yeah, that's nice.
And Redshift from CNAME.
Yeah.
Vanity URLs. Nice. Compute.
Auto-scaling, adding, the better control of your EC2 instance replacement is nice. So, if you need to, updating, if something happens to it, that extra control there is nice with your auto-scaling groups. For everyone that runs EC2 Mac instances, you can now get macOS Sonoma on them. That'd be, no one here?
Yeah, no one runs Mac. no one runs Mac EC2s. They're too expensive. Especially seeing that you got to pay for 24 hours of usage every time you turn it on. So, yeah.
EC2 image builder,
lifecycle management. That's
and your deletion.
Helpful.
It's nice to be able to have things that tidy up without you needing to
tidy themselves up. Yeah. Data. I put 2. We have 2 QuickSight announcements in here. I think they're up to 12 QuickSight announcements this month. QuickSight's been getting a lot of love. Some people would say that it needed it, but yeah. And it turns out I actually put 3 in here, and I can't count, but we won't worry about that. And Spark UI for observability metrics, for Glue serverless, for those of you using Apache Spark, which is probably, again, not many people. But it's there.
Containers.
Graviton 2 in all regions. Yay!
Yeah. So nice price savings there if you're running your Fargate. So hey, Amazon supporting that back end, so you might as well, if you're running Fargate, go for the cost savings.
Yeah. Finch on macOS. Yay. IPv6 for AppRunner. Nobody uses AppRunner, and less than nobody uses IPv6.
But you can.
But you can if you want to. IPv6 is one of those things. I remember doing my CCNA back in 2001, being told that IPv6 is just around the corner. And that was 20-something years ago. That was 20. It just will not come, because IPv4 will not die.
Yeah, that corner was actually on a ball, and the corners just keep coming around. But yeah, look, I think the CloudWatch Container Insights enhanced observability for EKS. So yeah, if you're running your EKS, getting
you can now see why it's not working.
But yeah, more observability is always good. When things go wrong and you want to see what's going wrong
and why,
it's handy to have out of the box stuff.
Machine learning. Now, I've had to break the machine learning slide up into 2 because, surprise, surprise to absolutely nobody in the room, machine learning's like the thing at the moment. Yeah, right? I know. Well, they've got to do something saying that ChatGPT was down for half the day. Developer productivity in Australia just tanked. So Poly got a lot of love with new voices. They're actually pretty good. Like, they're a noticeable order of magnitude improvement on the quality and the natural sound of it to the last round of voices that they added, which is nice.
The big one that's been flooding everyone's LinkedIn and blogs and things, Party Rock, a playground for Amazon Bedrock. For anyone that wants to have a look, Ian posted up his own blog with Party Rock. So for anyone that likes Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventures, go check out Ian's
blog post.
The
other one, the interesting one, Amazon Code Whisperer for command line. So for those of you who don't use Visual Studio Code, or for those of you who need the power of Code Whisperer in your CLI, that's now a thing. Have a look at the documentation, because there's some nuances around what it sends back to AWS and what it doesn't send back to AWS. And what's opt-in and what's not opt-in. So there's a little bit of nuance there. But hey, it's only a matter of time now before that gets integrated into, Vim and Emacs and, the real IDEs, inverted commas.
It's a lot of fun, though. I've been playing with it since it's Mac OS only at the moment. So for anyone that runs Windows, bad luck. I'm sure it will come eventually, but...
And then, customizable buttons for chatbot. Yay! That's going to lead to some interesting things. And then just more models for Bedrock, because Bedrock needed more models. Machine Learning 2. More models for Bedrock. Because, that's going to be a thing that just happens now. I think long term, though, that's not going to be an announcement on the machine learning pages, because that's just going to be a monthly announcement. We've added new models to Bedrock. Just remember that when it comes to Bedrock, for those of you who haven't played with it yet, you need to go into your Bedrock management console and enable the usage of each individual model that you want to use. It takes a couple of minutes to enable and all of that. So if you're trying to use a new model and it's not coming up in the drop-down list, chances are that you haven't enabled it. Go into the Manage Access settings. Lex has got more logging, which is nice. SageMaker can do geospatial now, which is nice.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what how the Translate one goes. I think we've had some play rounds, and it could translate. Could use some work.
A little bit. And then more models for Neuron, and user roles for Code Catalyst. That's going to make life easier, or better for people. That means that a lot of organizations are actually going to start being able to use it. Moving on to networking, the big one here, the one that I never, ever, ever, ever thought that I would see and absolutely scares the pants off me, is the one at the bottom, multi-VPC ENI attachments. I don't know what AWS were thinking when they turned this into a feature. What this effectively means is that you can have an EC2, or you can have an EC2 instance that now lives in multiple VPCs simultaneously. So you have the ability to break the construct of a VPC being an isolation boundary. Now, the official use case for this would be if you had something like an east-west firewall or something like that you wanted to span different network segments. There's a bunch of pretty use cases that you could do there. If you had some common shared services, there'd be an argument for that to be a use case. But it's a lot like the S3 use it as a hard drive feature. You gotta be you really want to think about whether or not you actually want to use that, and if you've got a valid use case, because you could very quickly get yourself into a painful situation where you're getting some very weird behavior. But hey, you can do it now, right? So if you have a need, if you've been sitting there for years going, man, I wish I could have something sit in multiple VPCs simultaneously, you can now do it.
Yeah, just beware.
Yeah, just yeah.
So Transfer Family announcing alternate ports for their SFTP servers. That's handy. There are various times when yes, we've got it set. It must be this port though. Or you want to not use the
default. Which look, there's an argument as to whether or not look, again, it's nice that you can do it, right? It adds flexibility, and that's always a good thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Key value store for CloudFront.
Sounds interesting. I hadn't had a chance to really look into that.
I can see the use case here, needing a key value store that sits at the CDN level and globally available. The question I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, is because it's CloudFront, what does it cost? Because CloudFront's not exactly the cheapest AWS service to run. So that would be my concern there. But again, I can think of some use cases where that would be a really handy thing, particularly when you start doing Lambda at Edge and a bunch of those sorts of things. Being able to look at that could be helpful. Moving on to serverless. Lot of serverless announcements. SQS announces support for JSON protocol. Woo! That's one of those I never thought I'd see the day. That's going to make a lot of people very happy. Of course, having said that, most people like if you've been using SQS for a while, you're probably just used to not having JSON payloads in there, so you're probably just like, I'm not really going to bust a gut to go back into my code base and update it for JSON just for pretty purposes. But
step functions. Supporting the restarting workflows from failure.
That is gold right there.
Some big ones, and
that follows very quickly on from last month's announcement that you can now restart code pipeline jobs from the failure, which is nice. Yes, there's a reason as to why you shouldn't do that, but while you're in debug and build mode, it's nice to just be able to cut out the 10 minutes of the pipeline that works, and just debug the problem bit. But that's a big one.
Yeah, event bridge pipes, new logging functionality, everything that improved observability. That's always a good thing.
It becomes less. Yeah. Well, Event Bridge. I love Event Bridge. Right, like it is just so simple to use, and have services communicate with each other. The problem has been, it's been a little bit of a black box when things go wrong. You sort of have to sit there and reverse engineer sort of what the problem is. You can't just go to the logs and okay, right there. Yeah, I fat fingered the name of the queue. Right, well that makes sense. With this, hopefully, this is going to make life a lot easier for sort of when you're sitting there going, that should have worked. Okay, right, I see why. So, SNS increases the throughput of FIFO by 3,000 messages per second. That's look, I can't say I regularly get into the problem of 300 messages a second not being enough, but. Yeah,
3,000.
3,000 is now. Yeah, you're not going to hit that limit for a while.
Yeah. So. And then again some more new Lambda troubleshooting, timeouts and stuff. Again,
more logging, more visibility,
observability.
Always a good thing.
Yeah.
Security. API access was a big thing this month. They've realized that they've always said that you should be able to do things via the command line and via the SDK, and now they're actually going back and backfilling a bunch of things that you haven't actually been able to do for a while. So Identity Center, you can now API automate access to applications. So you're actually now starting to get the ability to automate your identity layer, which is a really nice thing. Into workforce access into AWS. So you could you can start doing things programmatically. Which, when it comes to something you're going to need to do 100 times, 1,000 times, when it comes to the number of users you've got, that's actually making Identity Center a somewhat usable service for an enterprise now.
Yeah, it had been too much just
Click
point and click ops. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? The Guard Duty announcement. So, yeah, more machine learning and threat detection around the EKS. Inventory and compliance dashboards with configs. So, they're not too bad.
So I haven't had a chance to look at those yet.
To see. Yeah.
Last accessed information on additional services. That's a really nice one. That's actually proving to enable a lot of sort of cleanup activities and cleanup reports in your environment. So for those who haven't been paying like huge amounts of attention to what goes on in the world of IAM, because it's not exactly one of the world's most exciting services that ever existed, but it's one of those sort of, it needs to be there. They have been adding the ability to query individual services and users to be able to work out the last time that they actually went and did something. Not a huge thing, but what it now means is that you can have reports periodically run. When was the last time the user accessed, the QuickSight dashboard, or when was the last time they actually accessed this part of the management console, so that you can it enables you to start tidying things up and start shooting for that least privilege goal, so that you can start showing your auditors and your compliance team, we are constantly actually monitoring this stuff, and just because they got the permission last year, they weren't using it this year, now we're looking at rolling that back and constantly tightening things up. It's just making that a lot easier to do, again, from a programmatic standpoint, because if you can query when it was last accessed, if it goes 120 days, you could have a Lambda automatically fire off to remove that from the policy, and you can. That's a really nice story to be able to tell the auditors. Not super sexy, not super exciting, but just one of those ease of use, quality of life things.
Yeah, make it so much easier to implement least privileged policies and know that yes, these things are not being used. Anything else?
That's about it for security. Dev and Ops, the other one that I had to split into 2 slides this month because there's been a lot happening. Amplify's gotten a lot of love this month. I'm going to need to go back and have a look at this guy. Like, I did a lot of stuff on Amplify like 5 years ago, like pre-COVID days. I'm going to need to go back and have a look at it. But server-side rendering for your JavaScript, so your Next and your Nuxt and all of those sorts of things. Even your Astros and all of that are now fully supported on the Amplify hosting platform. So if you're looking at using any of those newer frameworks, all works in Amplify straight out of the box. The other one is
CloudFormation.
CloudFormation for that's a huge one. That is huge.
Resource import for your change sets.
That's a big one. Amplify hosting for wildcard subdomains. Anybody run a software as a service company? Do per customer domains, means Amplify is actually a valid option. You probably still wouldn't want to do it because of a number of other limitations, but gives you the ability to have one website with multiple subdomains, all direct to the one website. You can then use your host header, do a whole bunch of really interesting bits and pieces. It just makes life a lot easier. Before you had to deploy individual Amplify websites, and it got really time consuming because it takes Amplify is really slow at updating its web pages. So this is a really nice fix for that. Integrated Application Test Kit is in preview. I've been having a little bit of a play with that. If you don't currently have testing at your integration layer, have a look. It is a V1 product, so it's fairly limited in what it can do. But what it does do, it does well, and it does really easily. Like, you can get some pretty detailed testing and validation in your pipeline with very little code and very little effort. I was able to implement it into some of my projects in about 10 minutes.
Nice.
So that was,
Nice. Amplify again.
Amplify launches next generation of back-end building capabilities. There's a whole heap behind that one, but the main takeaway is, to give you a bit of an idea, you've now got integration with CDK. That's one of the biggies. So you can have your Amplify implementation that implements like your auth, like your Cognito pool and your S3 hosting and your GraphQL endpoints and all of that sort of stuff. But then you can use and you can interact with that through CDK using the constructs and all of those sorts of bits and pieces. So that's a really nice way for you to extend the rest of your platform outside of the Amplify ecosystem, so that you don't have to live purely within Amplify and live with the limitations and all of those sorts of things. So
the concurrency mode for CloudFormation stack sets, getting those out faster is nice. They can take quite some time to deploy if you're deploying stack sets. So
hundreds of accounts, and that's going to
being able to speed that up, just run them all. That's a time saver.
Yeah. Code Build now supports AWS Lambda Compute. This is read the documentation before you look at implementing this, because there are a lot of limitations. Just because you can do it in Lambda does not mean you can do that in Code Build on Lambda. The timeouts are a lot shorter. The limitations around access to storage, even temp storage, is greatly reduced. You can't import a lot of things. You there's a... It is well documented in the documentation, but just go through it, because people will get stuck very quickly on that one. But the flip side, oh man, it'd be nice to have code builds not have to wait 5 minutes for the containers to spin up before they actually run the 6 seconds worth of code they've got to run. So if you can run it on Lambda, I would, but I would double check the documentation before you start going down that rabbit hole. Yeah,
and there's for anyone that's interested in that, I've seen there's been quite a few posts around on LinkedIn, various people doing that. So check out their experiences and check the doco, give it a try.
Other cool stuff. Code Catalyst now supports Terraform. For those people who liked the idea of Code Catalyst but hated the idea of doing it in CloudFormation, you can now use Terraform. That's always a really nice thing. Ground Station extends. I put our machine learning model didn't put this one in there. I had to put this one in here just because it's funny. Ground Station expands wideband digital intermediate frequency usage to Oregon, Ohio, and Dubbo. So there we go. We can now officially do wideband on Ground Station into a New South Wales-based radio station. So get those satellites out and start feel free to play with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I had to tag Matt in that when it came up in the announcement, because he's been
every time I start with a new employer, the first question I ask them is, "Will you buy me a satellite so that I can play with Ground Station?" And every time the answer is no. Like, how often do you get to talk to satellites? Like that, I can't think of a reason I'd want to, but it's just cool nonetheless. Organization-wide IAM condition keys to restrict AWS service-to-service requests. Organization-wide is one of those things that it's slowly coming in. It has been too hard. Go back, have a look at a couple of the announcements. I might put something on Slack just to tie, because they've spanned a couple of months. So I might just put a post together. There have been a few quality of life improvements which enables you to go back and dramatically simplify your service control policies and your IAM policies to restrict cross-account and service-to-service interactions. Before, you had to do a lot of things with tags and like hard-coding values and that. These announcements have sort of made that a lot easier. So if you happen to be poking around your organization config, there's probably a lot of areas that you can sort of make life a little bit easier and a lot simpler to understand. And that's that's sort of
support for Terraform.
Yeah. Time sync service now supports microsecond accuracy time, because microsecond accurate time is what we've all been wanting. Heads up, that one's only available in Tokyo at the moment. Yeah, it is coming. It is coming, but I don't know why it's only in Tokyo, but it is for the moment.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the 70-something announcements that we chose to pick out of the 300 and something, that's it. That's what's going on in AWS. Obviously, next week is the biggie. I'll be back on stage later. We can have a little bit of a conversation about how many announcements we think will come out next week. But yeah. Always remember that there's the announcements channel in our Slack if you want to see what's going on a day-by-day basis as well. So
yeah, it's just been going nuts. So yeah. Thank you.
Next up is Jason. For those of you who don't know him, Jason is a lead consultant at Telstra Purple, working in managed services. AWS operations is a passion of his, and that's why he's giving this talk. He's also an AWS ambassador and AWS community builder. And his most important task, of course, is reading the news here every month, or sort of every month. So, if everything is all okay, I'll hand it over to Jason. It worked before, so it should be working now. I see something flicker. Cool. No. That's
Sorry? Yes.
some technical difficulties. Please hold.
Looks like it's seeing the hey.
It's working. Cool. Then
All right, let's look into
good luck, Jeff.
All right. Hi, everyone. Sure, maybe some of you have seen me up here before, but as Ian said, my name's Jason. I work for Telstra Purple in managed services. So one of the things I look at a lot are a lot of your ops tools and things. And there's like quite a few tools that, you know, are really handy, but a lot of people sort of forget about. So I've chosen a couple here, and I thought, yeah, I'll go through these with you. So first one that I'll be covering is AWS Cloud Shell. So bit of show of hands, who here has actually used Cloud Shell or uses it? Okay, cool. So there's a few here. Who's forgotten or has never heard of Cloud Shell? Right. And who would like quick access to a Linux environment that's got a whole bunch of tools and lets you quickly access your AWS environment? Alrighty. So this one may have some info for you here. All right. So what do you get with Cloud Shell? Cloud Shell, it's basically an Amazon Linux environment. So currently it's in the transition phase between Amazon Linux 2 and 2023. You get 1 gig of persistent storage in this account. However, it is regional. So, you can store files and, templates and so forth up there. It uses your IAM credentials. So you access it via the console. So whatever you log in with, that's the role that's sort of attached to this environment, and that's what determines your access. It's packed with a whole slew of command line tools. And one of the other cool things is it's got a secure upload and download option. So for me in managed services, I do a whole lot of reports using the CLI and stuff. So it's awesome to just be able to jump on quickly, run those, save that, locally, and then download those reports to my laptop. So what sort of tools does it have? Right, this is only a relatively small list of what's included, but you can have Bash, ZSH, or PowerShell. All of the AWS CLIs, including the Elastic Beanstalk CLI for everyone that uses Elastic Beanstalk. Yeah, that was a little bit of a joke. You're allowed to laugh. Python 3 and Node.js, the runtimes and SDKs. It's got the code commit utility for Git already there, and all of your Git. So kubectl, JQ, Make, and a heap of others. And the cool thing, again, because it is a Linux box with internet access, you can use Yum or DNF as appropriate to download whatever packages you want with whatever software that you want on there. So, again, like if you just want to jump on, connect to something without having to worry about, I need to set up my credentials, I've got to do this. Anywhere that you jump on with a browser, you've got an environment that you can run all this stuff straight off. Super handy. So, how do you get to it? There's actually 2 different ways that you can run Cloud Shell. You can run it in full screen mode. So there, just go into your normal sort of search like any of your AWS console screens, search for Cloud Shell, click it, open it up, and that'll give you your full screen Cloud Shell. Or there's also a toolbar mode. So if you actually have a look at your console, you'll see in the top left corner, you've got like that little command icon up here. Looks like your command prompt. You can click on that. Or the other thing is down the bottom left-hand corner, it says Cloud Shell. So you can click on that. What does the toolbar mode give you? That it takes up some of your screen real estate, but it gives you a smaller version of Cloud Shell at the bottom of your screen, and you still have your console session running at the top. So if you're wanting to sort of have a look between, both your console window and sort of running some CLI commands to query stuff, what have you, that's the way to go. I preferred sort of running in full screen and just tabbing back. But, the option is there. There are a couple of gotchas, though. As we were talking about in the what's new about permissions and running things, least privilege. Generally, I like to run everything in a read-only mode unless I'm actually going to change stuff. But Cloud Shell won't open up in read-only mode because it does need to open that to a create environment. So, yeah, you need to make sure that you've either add that to your your standard role, or open it into something that does have more than read-only. The other thing that I found that was interesting and a little bit weird, it's not in Melbourne yet. However, if you're in the Melbourne region, you can still open it in Sydney, which was sort of a little bit weird and counterintuitive. You get this nice blue line coming up there saying, "Hey, it's not here, but we've opened a Cloud Shell in Sydney for you." So yeah, if you're expecting to, run a command without the region prompt and get weird things, that could be why. So just be aware of that one. At least there's lots of pop-ups saying, "Hey, you're not where you think you are." But yeah, so that was my quick take on Cloud Shell. I suppose before I go on to the next one, does anyone have any questions around Cloud Shell? Ian's just going to come with a mic.
Is it just EC2 running behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it as I said, they run up an Amazon Linux 2 environment. I don't think you actually have to pay for Cloud Shell, so you get that for free, including the free sort of 1 gig. I think you can go larger and you can pay for more, but you don't. I can't remember if in the docs if they actually tell you what size machine, but yeah, you just fire it up and it's there. Again, because you are running up an environment, it takes a little bit to start up, but it's only a couple of seconds.
How does it access the restricted environments in VPCs and all this stuff? Does it have the static IP or what?
No, well, they don't really say. So I'm assuming it's obviously must be run up somewhere inside your VPC, because you've got that almost like sort of a role attached with what your current thing is, so you can access the accounts that you're in. So it's sort of account by account based. But yeah, it's sort of a little black box-ish at the back there. You don't there's very little configuration that you set for Cloud Shell itself. So it just sort of works off whatever permissions that you've got, and it has access to the VPC resources in your account.
Yeah, 2 questions. First one, if I'm through a shared role, such as admin or power user or something, so everyone who logs in as that role will see all of my files in their home directory when they log in?
No, because the role's attached to your user, so it's a per user thing. So you'll log in to the AWS. So you log into the AWS console, and you just it's launched from there. So it's
And I get
done with your user permissions.
Okay, because I get a session token to allow me to assume a role, so which everyone else is assuming as well. So, okay. The other question.
Yep.
If I check out my Python project into there and I want to communicate to a database which is in a security group, can I add that security group to the Cloud Session, Cloud Shell environment, so I can communicate with the RDS?
I'd have to look up the I'd say check out the doco. The doco for it is actually fairly good there. I haven't had a look at that side of things, but I have been the times when I've been able to SSH into servers. So SSH is also one of the tools that's there. So handy to SSH into servers. Yeah, that's something I'll have to look at. That's yeah, but you definitely can connect into servers I've SSH'd in before. So, but yeah, what you'd need to open for the security groups, I'll have to check.
Oh yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why it doesn't work with read-only role?
Well, yeah, again, because it sort of spins up the environment there. So the EC2 that's at the back, if you can see, it might be a bit hard to read in the box, but it said that it requires a create environment permission, which is not part of the standard read-only roles. So what you would there's a few other tools as well that I would say, if you've got a mostly read-only account that you use a lot, there's a couple of things I would add, the create environment for Cloud Shell, or just Cloud Shell star if you're a little bit lazy. And the other thing that I use a lot is the connect for accessing your EC2s via SSM. That's another one of those things that you can't do with the read-only. So ideally, I would say now you'd want sort of read-only with a couple of additions, this being one of them, to allow you to access Cloud Shell and to be able to do SSM Session Manager. It's another one of those things that would be good to add into your sort of read-only accounts. So I do have another tool for you. Amazon Data Lifecycle Manager. Who has heard of DLM? Yeah, only a few people. It's pretty much the forgotten backup tool. And one of the strange things for it being sort of the forgotten backup tool, actually, let me first off, who's heard of AWS Backup? Yeah, most other people. DLM gets a lot of stuff before AWS Backup does. Even things relating to just EBS backup. So let's go and have a look. So DLM works just with EBS. So it doesn't do your FSX, doesn't do EFS or any of those extra things that AWS Backup does. But if we're talking EBS snapshots, DLM is sort of one of your other backup tools, and it's actually found in the EC2 console, is where you look down, you'll find Lifecycle Manager in there. And you can back it up two different ways. You can either do it on a volume by volume basis, or you can do it via instance, which will automatically do all of the volumes attached to that instance. So I jumped in just recently, had a look at this again because of two main features which I'll be sort of talking about today. But when you configure it, it's actually fairly simple to configure. It does have full cloud formation, but I've just done your ClickOps screenshots for this one. So you set it up. It will, if you go by the ClickOps, it will automatically create a role for you if you don't already have one. If it does detect the default role, it will use that, or you have the option to, choose another role and create your own. Setting up the schedule and frequency is the same sort of for both modes. You got your drop downs. You can choose, your monthly, daily, weekly, etc., or use a custom cron. So that's quite nice. The gotcha on the second screen, as you'll see, the starting time, it is in UTC. So yeah, you need to offset it from local times, and it doesn't do daylight saving. And then when you're setting your retention, again, you have two options. You can set via age, which is the easiest for us as humans. How long do we want to keep this around for? Or you can do it count. So I just want 7 dailies. So give me that rather than an age of 1 week or something. Again, like really simple to set this up. I think a fair bit easier than AWS Backup. Here is the big thing. A little while back, it was announced that with EBS snapshots, you can archive them to long-term storage. Not sure if anyone remembers that one, but it's pretty cool. What it actually does is it generates a full image of that volume, that sort of a full copy of that volume, snaps that off and archives that away much cheaper than what a standard EBS snapshot will be. Don't ask me the pricing, I've forgotten that, didn't look it up for this. But so that's something that EBS had. Not long after that was announced, DLM came out with the ability to do archives. It's not something that AWS Backup has. I'm always hopeful each sort of reinvent that they'll announce, but let's see. So the cool thing with this, reasonably easy. So you set up your standard schedules, and then you jump into your advanced options. Choose that you want to do your snapshot archiving, and then give it the length of time that you want it to archive for. And that is in addition to the standard retention time. So, and you can sort of see that where just underneath you'll see, retention in standard, the archive retention, and then it gives you like what that full term will be. So, if you want to do a 7 years worth of monthlies with like 3 months in your standard storage, so do 3 months and then 81 gives you your 84. So you can see too, there's extra options you can do there as well. Fast snapshot restores, cross-region, cross-account as well. So, for something that's fairly simple to configure, it can actually be pretty powerful. Again, especially for a tool that most people don't realize exists. And the other thing that piqued my interest again with DLM and was announced fairly recently, I think only last week or so. If you're backing up via an instance type, so you will see a different option when you get to advanced settings. And that is the ability to do pre and post scripts. So if you click on that, if you're running a Windows server, you've now got an option to do a VSS backup, so you can do application consistent snapshots. Or if you're running Linux or you've got something custom in your Windows that you want to sort of halt when you're doing before you're doing your snapshot, you can click on the option to run a custom SSM document. So then you tell it whether you want to run it, pre and post, pre only, post only, and then the documents that you want to run. So the other thing too, you'll note there's a checkbox down there that the default to a crash consistent backup if your script fails. So for anyone that's not used to backup terms, crash consistent is just your standard sort of snapshot type. So when you take an EBS snapshot, it's sort of like, if you recover from that, it's like you've turned the machine off and turned it back on again. That's the sort of state it will be in. So anything that was in memory, if you've got databases that were running at the time, they will, you'll have those issues coming back from a crash consistent. This gives you the chance to say, hey, put my database into like a read-only mode, take my snapshot, and then take it out of that read-only mode when it finishes. So you can have that sort of application consistency. So, but if you're in the image, you don't get to do that EBS archiving. So if you want to sort of cover both, you sort of need to have a couple of different scripts there, or turn that off. You use the image one to create your snapshots, and then you need to just hook up a Lambda or something to manually archive those snapshots after the phase. But so that was my little talk on a couple of forgotten tools. Anyone have any questions on DLM? Yeah, it's, as I said, it's one of those ones that, like, you look at it, it's like, what's this backup tool doing here? I'm going to use AWS backup because it's good and sexy and stuff. But yeah, for some weird reason, all the cool stuff actually comes to DLM before it hits AWS backup. And yeah, ABS snapshot, long-term archiving, awesome, only with DLM.
Since you said that DLM has some cool, was born before backup. So currently, if we want to do backup, and which service do you recommend?
For most things, I would say use AWS backup, but don't forget about DLM and what its features are. So if you want to do long-term archiving of your backups, that's one thing. It's been around in DLM for quite some time now, and I've just like each reinvent, I'm just like, when is it coming? Please announce it. So fingers crossed. We've got another one coming up soon. But yeah, I'd say just keep an eye on the things that DLM does, because lots of interesting, cool stuff seems to hit DLM before it hits AWS backup. Again, just purely for your EC2, for EBS type snapshots. So it's not going to do your EFS or FSX or any of those others. But yeah, definitely something to remember it exists, and yeah, if you've got a use case. Fine. Cool.
Thank you, Jason.
No worries. Thanks, everyone.
And with that, we have reached the end of the presentation part for tonight. And Matt will take the floor and show us the wonderful app he's made, well, web app, to give you all a chance to win wonderful prizes and predict the future.
Okie dokie. Right, there's a QR code we're going to need in a minute. All right, so reInvent next week. Kind of exciting. We obviously don't know what's going to be announced. We know that there's going to be a bunch of machine learning things. So we were talking as a user group, how can we make reInvent a little bit more exciting for the group? How can we sort of, bring a little bit of excitement to it? And what we have come up with is a relatively simple concept. We're going to hold a little bit of a voting session for what people think is going to happen at reInvent next week. So, because I'm incredibly unorganized, there's a QR code that I created all of about 6 minutes ago. If you would like to take a photo of that and on your phone, it will take you to a website which I've literally just realized I have not actually tested on mobile devices, so I have absolutely no idea what it's going to look like. Awesome! Yeah, like we're flying by the seam of our pants here. I have also realized that I was just talking to Ian, probably should have put a nice little vanity URL on this because it would actually make life a lot easier. But that's okay, we might do that after the fact, and I'll post the vanity URL in Slack later tonight or tomorrow just to keep things a little bit simple. Anyway, all right, so super simple, right? Why overcomplicate things when we don't have to? That is a very boring, very basic web form. Put in your email address, put in your name, select the question, type in your answer, hit submit. You will be presented with a very horrible, oh, look at that. I did actually remember to put some form of, basic validation in there. Put there, and I was just testing this and realized that I actually forgot to put the toast in there, so you're going to get a very horrible JSON response, but that's okay. Just hit the back button and you can, submit again. Right? We don't. There are a little bit of smarts in the back end. It will let you keep on submitting forms, but you only get about 5 votes. So don't think that you can just sit here spamming. How many product announcements will be in the keynote? 1 submit, 2 submit, 3 submit, 4 submit, 5 submit, 6 submit. I win. No, it will only really accept the first 5 answers. So. Have a go. There are 7 questions in there. Number of product announcements in the keynote. Number of product announcements that actually exist at announcement time. For those of you who have not played the reInvent game before, AWS love to announce a bunch of things and then go, oh yeah, but it's kind of like all sort of like in preview, and if you want it, you can talk to your account manager, but you're not actually going to get access to it until like the middle of next year, and it's not going to be GA until like 3 weeks before reInvent next year. That has happened before. So how many of these things that they actually announce next week will actually be generally available, ready to use next week? Most desired new product. What is it you want to see at reInvent? I have some sneaking suspicions I know what they're going to announce, but is it actually what people want? Closing party act. Everybody knows, the last night of reInvent is the replay party. Werner's, typically gets up in his keynote and announces who the act is going to be. Who do you think it's going to be? Also, every submission is time-stamped. So if I see like 100 submissions Thursday morning as he's announcing it, yeah, I'm going to know that, like, yeah, that wasn't a guess. That was you watching the live stream. And, yeah, they obviously won't count. Number of machine learning announcements. We know next week's going to be a very machine learning heavy event. You know, what do we think that's going to be? Number of non-machine learning announcements. Obviously, the inverse of that one. You know, what's the answer there? An existing service with the most announcements. I alluded in the What's New section that QuickSight, for example, has been getting a lot of love the last couple of weeks. What service next week is going to get the most amount of love? Now, I think it's Bedrock. You guys can pick something else. Yes.
Question about that.
Yes.
How do SageMaker and SSM count? As a single service or separate
Oh,
services?
that's a very good question. That's a very good question. SSM, no. I think SSM, you've got to use the individual sub-services because that's just too big a beast with too much of a disparate play. SageMaker, oh, that's a good one. I might need to think about that. I will come up with an answer and we will post it in the Slack channel. The theme of this, if you're not in our Slack, join our Slack. That's one of the themes of tonight's sessions. This is meant to just be a little bit of fun, a little bit of, get people involved sort of thing. So, you know, sit there, have a think, smash in the answers. Doesn't need to be tonight. This website's going to be up until sort of the end of towards the end of reInvent next week. So you know, have a little bit of fun. That's the aim here. Now, as for the correct answers, or the people who get closest to the correct answers, we have a bunch of prizes that various sponsors and that have provided. Some are still up in the air, so I won't go into details about all of them. But we have tickets to conferences for next year up as prizes. We have AWS swag available. We have, I think we even have some AWS credits as prizes as well. So there are, you know, tangible things as much as, you know, sort of some of the prizes are a couple of $100 worth of value. So feel free to, you know, no, user group organizers are not eligible to win the prizes. Oh yeah, and if you get the credits, if you win the AWS credits, remember Bedrock is not, you cannot use AWS credits for Bedrock. So that's just a public service announcement. Because I had a little bit of time left, I just sort of thought I'd spend 5 minutes having a quick chat about how I built this, because there's been a lot of talk in the last week, if anybody's been paying attention to their LinkedIn feeds or their Twitter feeds, around Party Rock. Party Rock? Yes, I've got that right. And creating single-page applications very quickly and very easily. This is a single-page application. It is a very boring, very simple single-page application, but it is one nonetheless. Now, I did a little bit of looking quickly when we were talking about this. How quickly can I get a no-code solution up and running that does something like this? And the answer is not too bad, like pretty quickly, but everybody wants to charge you a not insignificant amount of money for what should be a very simple task. Right? Like this is one HTML page that submits your queries into DynamoDB. Like that's all it does, right? And you've got no-code solutions from like Notion and that are going to charge you $20 a month, up to Zapier now does forms and web pages that you can tie in. That starts at like $120 US a month. 1 year minimum subscription, thank you very much. Now, Zapier does a lot of other things, but if you just want a simple web form, it should not be that hard, it should not be that complicated. So how do we very quickly, if we're people like me and not actually a developer and doesn't actually know coding particularly well, well, the answer, obviously enough, should not be a surprise to anybody at about this point in time, ChatGPT. Or insert large language model or coding assistant of choice. The point here that I just wanted to sort of remind everybody is this stuff, yes, ChatGPT and your large language models and all of that do struggle when you start trying to do overly complex stuff. But if you just sort of have a little bit of a look here, and again, I'll post a link to this on the Slack channel. All I did is, I need a single page Flask application presented to the user, web form, blah, blah, blah. This is what I want as the form. The form should go to an API endpoint. I was originally going to save it to an S3 bucket and do a QuickSight dashboard. Nice, pretty back end. Turns out way too hard. And it gives you the code, right? Great, fantastic, excellent. Here's the index HTML, right? Nice, simple, right? You got to go in, change this variable, run this, blah, 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 done, right? Oh, now I want the JSON manifest file so that I can suck that into QuickSight. Yep, cool, there's the JSON manifest, excellent. You know what, I've completely changed my mind. I want to go to DynamoDB instead because it turns out that for free text fields, QuickSight sucks. Does really great at aggregate, does really great at counts and graphs and charts and all of that, but free-form text, yeah, just don't bother. So let's go to DynamoDB, and then I'll just ask you to draw me up a dashboard. So, you said, I've changed my mind. I want DynamoDB instead of S3. Right, here's the updated code. Right, cool, great, awesome. I now need a dashboard because if I'm not going to use QuickSight, I need to display this stuff myself. Right, this is what I need on the dashboard. Yeah, cool, not a problem. Here's the code. Here's the changes that you've got to make to what I've already given you. Right, boom, 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 boom. Here's the, that's what you want. In addition to that, I actually want a checkbox so that I can show people's names or not show people's names, because I was going to walk you through the dashboard and I didn't know whether or not I should show people's names on the screen because it's being recorded and broadcast live, and I don't want to invade people's privacy. Right? Yeah, cool, sweet. Here's how you go and update the code. Right? So now you've got a checkbox as to whether or not you show people's names. You just keep iteratively adding little things that you want. Right? And large language models can help you smash these sorts of things out very, very quickly. Right, now, by the end of this, I'm like, actually, now, cool, right, it works, it does exactly what I want. Throw it into a Docker file for me. Right, cool, done, easy peasy. Here's the requirements file. Oh, I'm getting some errors, it's doing weird things. Oh, that's right, because ChatGPT is only up until a particular point in time. It still thinks the current version of Flask's version 2, not version 3. I'm pulling in version 3 of the HTTP authorizer. Now I've got compile problems. Yeah, it's worked through all of that. It turned around and told me that it's only trained up until January 22 at this point. That's the instance I'm running anyway. Yep, cool, not a problem. Found my problem. Spat all of that out, updated. Oh, yeah, now I'm probably going to get yelled at if I just throw straight HTML on the page. People are going to have another go at me for my lack of UI skills. Can I just wrap some bootstrap, stuff around here to make it not look completely horrible? Yes, we can absolutely do that. Go and whack this stuff in here. Bob's your uncle. Done. All of that took me about 25 minutes. All right? And then I pushed it to App Runner while Jason was presenting. Yes, Jason, not JSON, yes. He is not available through SQS. So this sort of stuff can be very simple, it can be very easy, and it does not require a lot of technical effort to pull off. Have a go. If you're not a developer, don't get scared off by this type of stuff. It is relatively easy. Running this in App Runner for the 1 week that we're going to run it is probably going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe a couple of bucks. All right? So, go to ChatGPT. Don't go at the moment because ChatGPT keeps on crashing, but maybe use Bedrock because Bedrock can give you the same answer or similar answers, right? Use one of those models. Bedrock's pretty cheap. In fact, if you use it for a project like this, it's going to cost you significantly less than the $20 US that ChatGPT is going to cost you for a month. Have a go, come up with a simple project. Things like Party Rock, yes, they are super easy. Yes, they are super powerful, but they do not have to be your only option. So, give other things a go. But yes, the main point of this is have fun, submit your choices. I'll post the link and the QR code in Slack, all of that sort of stuff. If you've got any questions, hit us up in Slack. The organisers are available, and I will be back in January to announce the winners. So we'd like to see everybody there in January. If you are not in attendance in January for whatever reason, that's why we're asking for your email address so that we can get in contact with you. privacy. We're not sharing this with anybody, blah, blah, blah. Even the sponsors and the people who are giving gifts, we're not giving your email addresses away to everybody. It is purely just so that if you don't rock up in January, we can contact you to congratulate you and give you a gift. That's all, right? KMS keys, blah, 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 security, you know, all those sorts of things, right? Standard spiel goes here. Any questions, queries, concerns, thoughts, or issues? Nope. Everybody's still smashing away on their phone, submitting 1,000 submissions. Awesome, good to see. Have fun.
Thank you, Matt. It's easier. Later tonight, I'll also make sure that there's a easier URL from the website. So you can just go to melb.awsug.org.au/reinvent quiz or something like that. But that brings us to the end of tonight. Why do I have... Okay. Apparently I've got a security warning because macOS is very good at showing those. But we have our marketplace segment. Is anybody hiring at this stage? Nobody? That makes this a very quick segment. It's almost like it's the end of the year and everybody is in shutdown mode and trying to save money by not hiring new people. Cool. Then I will do our usual thanks to our sponsors. Our gold sponsors CMD, silver sponsors Versant and Civo, and our venue sponsor NAB. We'll be back in January, as has been mentioned several times. It's the 31st of January. Most likely it will be here. As in previous years, what we will do is have a panel to discuss the reInvent announcements. They'll be sitting there. Somebody will be sitting here to ask questions. We prefer to do it this way simply because it's more fun. And that does remind me, I think there is sometime in December, I forgot to add it to the upcoming events, but there will be a AWS Run recap event in the AWS office, or somewhere it's where they will try to go through all 462 announcements or whatever number you fill in the form. So 14th of December. Yep. So you may want to attend that as well, but I can tell you ours is nicer. It's more fun. It's better. And we have prizes to hand out if you're one of our lucky winners. Now, that is it for tonight. Before you all run away, you can all be a winner because we've got lots of food left. So take some food for your lunch tomorrow. From experience, I can tell you these are still great for lunch tomorrow. So take something, because anything that is left food-wise, we have to throw away. So that's it. Thank you all for coming. Feel free to stick around for a few minutes to do some networking, chatting, before we kick you all out, because we don't have the venue all night. Thank you all, and see you next year.